on to now is the potato. And the potato is probably the most famous and the most powerful for all tissue inflammation. Ginger is for joint inflammation, the potato is for tissue inflammation. So where you would use your potato would be a swollen ankle, sprained ankle, any area where you've got swelling. Ingrown toenail. A lady rang me up and she said, my daughter has just trodden on a rusty nail. And it almost went through the top of her foot. She said, I've heard about your potato poultice and I'm putting it on, but it's still a little red and it's sore. So I said to her, what I would do is I would do the hot and colds. We talked about them the other night. 3 minutes in the hot water, 30 seconds in ice cold. 3 minutes in hot water, 30 seconds in ice cold. You do it 3 times. It's called alternating hot and cold foot baths. What that does, it brings a dramatic influx of blood into the area, which forces the old stagnant blood to be flushed out. New blood brings more nutrition, more water, more oxygen, more white blood cells, everything that that foot needs to heal. And then put the grated potato on. Now, I was a little bit concerned about the situation, so I said, please ring me in an hour and tell me what's happening. She rang me in 2 hours. I always take no news as good news. She said, the child's laughing, all the redness has gone out of the foot and all the pain is gone. Those hot and cold treatments can give a real boost to the poultices. So to make the grated potato poultice, we grate the potato. Potato is very wet, so be careful not to make it too much. So there's the potato. Spread it out a little. This is very cooling. And this potato poultice you can use in any of the tender parts of the body. Very good on sore eyes, very good for conjunctivitis, and you can see that's quite wet. A friend of mine rang me up when my children were young, and her children were little too, and she had a little baby, and I could hear the little baby screaming. I said, what's the matter with Louis? She said, I don't know why, but she said his little penis, he's only 10 months old, is twice the size. What are you going to do? And if you take him to hospital, what are they going to do? I said, quickly make a grated potato poultice. That only took me minutes. I said, put the grated potato poultice over his whole scrotum. See, that's very cold, but that would be very cooling. Potatoes high in potassium and phosphorus, which are absorbed through the skin into the body and helps with the healing. I said, put that over the area, put his nappy on. So she did. And she told me that he stopped crying within about 5 minutes. The little bloke was also exhausted. He slept for 2 hours. She kept going into the bedroom to check. What does a 2-hour sleep mean for a baby? It means that he's out of pain. When he woke, she took the nappy off and everything was back to normal. Now, sometimes you don't know. A little baby crawling around, it could have been a bite, it could have been a little bit of dirt got in. Sometimes you don't know. Sometimes you don't know what's causing the swelling, and you actually don't have to know. Because if you put the grated potato poultice on and it brings relief, the body's saying what? Good. This is helping me. One of the most dramatic responses to this I've seen was when I was living in the rainforest. We had a guy living on our property who was a real hippie. And he used to live in the caravan and he would sickle the grass, you know, the old-fashioned sickle in bare feet. He was doing it one day and one of the guys told me that the end of the sickle went into his ankle. I didn't hear anything again for about 3 days. And 3 days later, one of the guys of his said, have you seen Chris? His foot's up like a big red balloon and there's a big red line going up his leg. And Chris was lying in bed smoking marijuana waiting for nature to heal. Nature will heal if you give it the right conditions. And sadly, the dope was actually putting him in la-la land. His body was screaming at him, but he wasn't listening to it because he kept dulling the pain with the marijuana. You see, your body speaks to you, doesn't it? I said, bring him up. So they brought him up. He couldn't walk. And what I did was I did hot and colds. I thought, this is a crisis. We've got to move quickly on this one. Now, I knew that he would not be able to handle really hot water. I always put the person's foot into my hand, lower it carefully into the water and watch their face. Because it was so painful, I made it just probably body temperature. And then after 3 minutes, I'll put it in the ice cold. After the ice cold, he could handle a little bit more hot. And I did that 3 times. That treatment alone reduced his pain by about 40%. You see, the blood was sitting and pooling there. So going alternating hot and cold brings a dramatic flow of blood, pushes the old blood out. It's been used for centuries, hydrotherapy, and in the area of pain relief, there really is no equal. And it's dramatic. How long did that take? 15 minutes, and we got some dramatic results. The swelling went down a little, and then I put a grated potato poultice, not just on the site, but on his whole foot. So big grated potato poultice. I wanted that tissue swelling to get right down. And then I put Glad Wrap all over it. His pain levels, by the time the hot and colds had been done and the grated potato had been done, had reduced about 50%. He could actually even limp a little bit now. I said, come back in 2 hours. When he came back in 2 hours, the swelling had gone down by half and the wound had opened. See, this was a deep wound and it must not close until it healed from the very middle. In fact, that wound must stay open until it healed right from the middle. Tetanus can only get a hold on a body if it's a deep wound that heals on the outside and there's an element of horse organism in the soul. So we had it all. And tetanus is a nasty death. Now, if he'd come back in 2 hours and I hadn't seen results, we would have just taken him straight to hospital. But I was seeing results. I did it again, the hot and colds again. I did the grated potato again. I saw it come down a little bit more. He came back 2 hours later. The red line was starting to go down. The swelling in the foot had gone down by nearly 3/4. I think I did it another 2 hours, so I did it 3 times, 2 hours apart, and by then it was evening. And I said, come back in the morning. When he came back in the morning, the red line had travelled down by half. The foot was now its normal size and the wound was oozing nicely. Dramatic results. And all we did was hot and colds and grated potato. So very dramatic, very simple though. You would never put an onion poultice on the eye, but that's where you use your grated potato. You would never put a ginger poultice on the eye, but you would put a potato. So any tender parts of the body, you would put a grated potato. The next thing we're going to look at